Hello, this is Mrs. Mendy, and today I'm going to talk to you about acceleration. Acceleration is a change in velocity. So remember that velocity is speed with direction. So you can think about acceleration, especially in things like race cars, where they go ready, set, go. And so it goes from accelerating from not moving at all, so zero velocity, to some other large number. Oh, this is a video which I cannot play you and show you this, so I will have a link to this in your assignment instead. But just think about that what you're feeling when you're on a roller coaster, like the fun feeling of a roller coaster, is acceleration. You do not feel velocity per se. You feel the change in velocity. You feel acceleration, like when you go uh, from slow, like at the top of the hill, to going really fast, that getting thrown to the back of the seat feeling, that's acceleration. Or if you get thrown to the side because there's a quick turn, that's acceleration. And why can't I see this? Okay, sorry, problem going past that. Okay, but here is the acceleration equation, because of course you'll be calculating things with this. So acceleration is a change in velocity over a change in time. So this kind of feels like the velocity equation, where it was change in displacement over time, or the displacement over time. I guess that's a change in location. And the acceleration is kind of like that, but again, the change in velocity per time. So here's acceleration. Um, and if you have not seen this, I can't recall if we have talked about things with a sub number. So like you would say this v sub 2 or velocity sub 2 or velocity sub 1. So this just is signaling like the velocity that you are at the second point in time. So, or sometimes they'll say final velocity, and then this would be initial velocity, or the velocity that you started with and the velocity that you ended with. Okay, so this is just like velocity later, velocity when you first started looking. Okay, so that's important that it go in this direction because it means something whether acceleration is negative or positive. Okay, so if this is velocity at the second point and velocity at the first point divided by the change in time. So like what time it was. And usually you already think of things in terms of change in time. You know, like you say, "Oh, I'm going to do this for an hour." That's a change in time. The hour is the change in time. You don't say usually, "I'm going to do this from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock." You know, I guess you do sometimes, but it seems more normal. So sometimes this will be written as just t because that's how humans think about time in the Western world. Okay, the unit of acceleration is meters per second squared. Meters per second squared. Well, that's weird. So, but you can think of that. I mean, it's funny to think of like time squared, but I also like to think of this as meters per second every second. So it's like meters per second, like velocity, every second, because it's the change in velocity. Acceleration can mean from going from slow to fast, like in race cars. But acceleration can also mean changing direction at the same speed. So it's a different velocity because remember, velocity has direction. So acceleration being a change in velocity, it can be a change in the speed part, or it can be a change in the direction part, or both. Those are both changes in velocity. So they would both have acceleration if there's any change in velocity at all, whether the speed part of velocity or the direction part of velocity, that would be a change, an acceleration, because that's a change in velocity. Okay, so like if you're going around the corner and you feel that feeling of getting squished to the one side, that's a change in velocity by changing direction. Acceleration can also mean slowing down. So negative acceleration, like if the value of the acceleration is negative, that means you're slowing down. So like this car crashing into this wall with the crash test dummies, it is certainly experiencing acceleration because it's a change in velocity, but it's a negative acceleration. Okay, sometimes people will say deceleration, but it's really the same stuff because numbers are allowed to have negative values. Okay, so negative acceleration means slowing down. Your velocity is lower than it was initially. Acceleration can be from gravity because the gravity of the Earth accelerates you toward the Earth when you are jumping from a high place or really even from a low place. And we'll talk more about what that means because that's a special acceleration that just because it's so universal on Earth. Well, in the universe, but we're mostly on Earth. So, summing up, acceleration is any change in velocity from either speed or direction. It can mean slowing down, it can mean speeding up, and changing direction. So, changing direction, that means like turning or going backwards. So, you could be slowing down so much and then you go backwards, like if you've ever coasted your bike up a hill. Okay, because you're going at a certain speed at the bottom, as you go up the hill, if you don't pedal, you get slower and slower and slower, and then you stop and then you start going backwards. Okay, so that acceleration keeps going in that negative direction in that case. Okay, describing the different kinds of acceleration. So here's a real road in the Carpathian Mountains. And so going around the corners. You're changing direction. You're changing direction. And probably if you took your foot off the brake and you're up here, you're going to go faster and faster down this. You should probably slow down around the curve so you don't go flying off. Yeah, don't do that. Okay. And if you're going up the hill, you're probably going a little bit slower anyway, too, or you're using more gas. If you go on a roller coaster, so here's where you're going up there and over the top, and then so you're going like very slowly, so you have a low V1 or your initial velocity, and then you go faster, 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 and then down here is where you're going. Actually, the fastest is at the bottom of this, so that would be your V2. So you'd have positive acceleration going down here. And then you get some other acceleration from going and changing direction. You're actually changing direction at the bottom here because you're going from curving down to curving up. So that's a change in direction. You're also going to be going more slowly all along up here because you're fighting against gravity here. And then you change direction. So there's all kinds of different acceleration. That's why roller coasters are fun because you can feel that. Okay, question. If you're riding on a merry-go-round, and I know I've asked this question before, is your velocity changing? Yes. So if your velocity is changing, do you have acceleration? And yes, you do. Anytime your velocity is changing, whether it's starting to go faster or starting to go slower or changing direction, you have acceleration. Okay, so remember, you've got to know this acceleration equation. So if you're taking notes, write this down. Okay, remember, the unit of acceleration is meters per second squared. That's how you know it's not velocity. That's it for now. I'll see you guys next time.